Welcome to the Smoke and Rope podcast. I'm your host, as always, Ryan Basore, and today is episode 49. And I am excited to finally have on the show Nicole Perry from Dart Bank. Nicole, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yep, super excited to get into banking. And as always, Tom Beller up in Kalkaska at Real Leaf. Very patriotic today. We'll appreciate it.
Patriotic every day, Ryan.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful day, man.
Yep,
Happy to be
yep.
here.
Cool. And Kevin, back with us, getting through some inspections over there over at Truu Cannabis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Made it through some inspections. Those are can be fun, can not be so fun sometimes. And this case was actually pretty enjoyable. Got through it. Glad to be back. Glad to have Nicole on the show today. Nicole's my actual banking officer, I guess. And so, yeah, glad to have her on the show. Looking forward to talking to her.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's get right into it. First met Nicole. It was a couple years back, and she started getting involved with the MICIA, and then we're also on a top secret club. I can't really talk about. Me, Nicole, and some other people, we get together and meet. So that's been fun, especially coming out of the pandemic. But what I really appreciate, what's going on. I was really excited when Dart Bank decided to get involved with this because as everyone else on the show, I've been kicked out of so many banks since 2010, and I got kicked out of banks last year, two of them still. So, but it was Dart, and Dart's based out of Mason, and that's pretty much like where I grew up, and I was excited to have that hometown feel, get involved and jump on board. And Nicole's been a natural fit, a local girl herself, and knows a lot of people in the industry, and is really good at her job, so much to where I commercial bank. People ask me if I know you, so you're making a name for yourself around the banking world, and appreciate you doing what you're doing. Really hope you stay where you're at and kind of climb that ladder, and it's going to be real nice, 5-10 years from now to possibly know the person running the show over there. So, so thanks for being on, Nicole. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? I thought it was cool to hear about your the class of the high school class that you graduated with, and then after that we'll get into how Dart got into cannabis banking.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you guys for having me on this podcast. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you a little bit about Dart Bank as well as myself. Like Ryan said, I was born in Michigan. I actually went to East Lansing High School, and my entire class seems to be in the cannabis industry, which is pretty cool. So it's nice going into something, knowing a lot of people and developing those relationships. I lived in a couple of different states throughout my life and ventured back to Michigan, where I've been for the past 8 years. Had a lot of really great experiences in other places. But here I am and got this really great opportunity with Dart Bank to be able to run the cannabis banking program. That's a once in a lifetime experience, and I'm forever grateful for being able to do that and getting to meet all of you and everybody else in the industry. It's definitely been a wild ride, and I love every minute of it. I've been in banking for over 20 years. We had a credit union in my high school, and I did co-op through there. And after college, I got back into banking, where I've held pretty much every position you could hold except for CFO and CEO. They get to do the dirty work. I get to have the fun. And I also wholesaled annuities for a very large insurance company. And now I'm in cannabis banking, and I'm a certified cannabis banking professional. There are credentials for cannabis. I have them. There are two others at Dart Bank that also have them. So that's a pretty cool thing, and I love it. As you can see, I'm a Spartan. Go green.
Go white.
And yeah, I just really love what I do.
That's awesome. So, how did do you tell us the story when were you there at Dart, or when they started? Were they already in cannabis banking before you started there? And just tell us kind of how that worked and what it's been like going, because we see it from the outside, but it's fascinating, and we always really appreciate the first the first movers on this type of stuff. So I mean, you guys are doing groundbreaking stuff just like we are.
Sure, absolutely. I started at Dart Bank in 2016, and I worked on the traditional side. But in November of 2018, when everything was passed, we had already done our due diligence with getting into the cannabis industry, so we were ready to go. We got board approval, we got all approval from the bank, and we've been going strong ever since. With DART being federally regulated by the FDIC and state chartered, we did have to make sure that we did our due diligence to get into this industry. That involved our president and CEO, as well as our chief risk officer, going straight to the FDIC and letting them know what we wanted to do. They also did visits with the Fed in Chicago as well as Detroit, and worked with the state of Michigan to develop this really compliant program. With us being federally regulated and cannabis being federally illegal, there's a lot of compliance involved and a lot of things that we had to do. So we're proud to be the first bank in the state of Michigan to get into the cannabis industry, and continuing to go strong for the past 3 years. We've been able to develop just amazing relationships all across the state. We literally support customers all the way up in the Upper Peninsula, down to the borders of Indiana and Ohio, and across the state in general. And it's just truly a beautiful thing that we found a niche to get into, and that we've rode it all this way and are able to support, people like you. It's just a beautiful thing.
It is.
And Nicole, this is Kevin over at Truu Cannabis. I work. I mentioned before I work with you guys over at Dart Bank, and I've really enjoyed working with you guys. Talk to us a little bit about what makes you different than the other cannabis banks in Michigan.
Sure, great question. So what makes us different is we were the first to get into it. We took that risk and we built a program based on not knowing really anything or anybody being in it, and it's been really strong. One of the things that sets us apart is we have an entire department that surrounds cannabis, CBD, and hemp, and that's called specialty banking. And so what it means for our customers is that, you get access to a group of people who are educated in the cannabis space. We know what we're talking about. We know what we're doing. Your response times are higher. You don't have to call an 800 number, and it makes it really personal for everybody. I believe all three of you, you would have relationships with everybody that is in our team. You know who they are. When you walk into the bank, you are treated like a normal person. You are not treated like someone who is in a federally illegal business. We like to try and treat you as normal as we possibly can. I know when Ryan walks into the bank, he is greeted by everybody. Nobody looks at him, sideways or anything like that. They all respect the fact that this is an industry and an opportunity for people to do something different and to make something good out of it. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, I can speak from experience. The first thing you had mentioned, when Ryan walks into the bank, yeah, you can actually walk into the bank and actually make your own deposits, which has been a great thing for me. When I worked with banks that were from out of state, it was a big nightmare having to use a cash transporter to pick up money. They take it to the Fed, then it's shipped out to in my case, Colorado, where then it took a few days there. And it was always, a problem. Having you guys local has been a huge thing for me. And I really appreciate all that you guys have done to help out the industry and provide us with some banking services. It's been great so far.
And I want to give a shout out to the Frandor branch, because that's where I was just there before the show, and I ran into somebody I haven't seen in 9 months, but we've been trying to get together. Every time I go in there, the staff's great, and then I always run into somebody else in cannabis. It's pretty cool to have that happen.
Yeah, I remember the first time we ran into the realities of cannabis banking. We were about 5 months into licensure, and we got dropped by our bank, who will remain nameless. But we only had a few options, and we thought we were kind of screwed for payroll for a while. And luckily, I spoke with Nicole, and we were able to get the situation expedited to the point that we could make payroll, and it was a smooth transition, and you guys were there for us. And we really appreciate that, because we even now, but even more so 2 years ago, we were always treated like like dirty or something, And it's like we're just a business trying to operate. So you guys, make it normal. I remember the first time Krista met with you guys at the bank to make our first deposit, and she wanted to say hello, by the way. That it was just such an amazing experience. Like we look at those pictures often because it was, it's been nothing but positive with you guys. And uh, I have a question about regulation type things. When I noticed that things have changed even over the past 2 years, we're building the plane while flying it. Before we used to have inspections from the bank, from the insurance company, from the local municipality, and the state. And things have kind of changed from that. Can you like discuss kind of some of the big things that have changed from as we bring this into more of a normalcy? And yeah, I'd be curious to hear that.
Sure, absolutely. And Tom, I'll never forget whenever you guys came to us as well. It was, such a great experience, and we've developed such a great relationship. I'm super happy about that. I mean, I know your entire family, and that's a beautiful thing. And I've been invited on his boat. Haven't gone yet, but I will. It'll be fine.
It's happening next month.
All right, cool. I'm there. But over the years, a lot has changed in the cannabis industry. And I think it's because more people are opting in to be partners in there. You're seeing more and more firms wanting to support in regards to payroll, in regards to insurance, in regards to everything. You never saw the big players in it before because they didn't want to take that risk. And then once they really educated themselves and talked to people in the industry, they found that it was a really great opportunity. So as it becomes more normalized, we're able to do things a bit easier. We still have to follow lots of compliance measures based on FinCEN guidelines and the Farm Bill and everything like that. So it's just important for us to make sure that we're not just running a cannabis program, but a compliance program as well. So we do have the initial, on-site audit visit that we do that's required, but instead of having them be on-site, we're now able to do them virtually. They only have to be done once a year. Every year after that, as of right now at least, we have to have a third party come and do that. But times change as, again, people get more comfortable, so things loosen up a little bit. Compliance hasn't really loosened up that much, but we have a really great system in place and work with a really great company for our compliance that allows us to be able to stay in tune and do things easier. And software is always upgrading, technology is always upgrading to make it easier for us. And with the changes to the MRA, it makes it easier for us to be able to do things. We still have to follow the same protocols of vetting transactions and whatnot, but with developing and using the softwares that we're able to use, it makes it less stressful on our customers and less stressful on our group as well. So it's just a matter of people being educated, I think, in the space and taking a risk and finding out how we can all work together to make it as fluid as possible for everybody.
Yeah, Nicole, you had mentioned that some of the big players in banking, and that you're one of the smaller players. I think that Tom and Ryan and myself all feel like we represent the smaller players in our industry, which is one of the real reasons why I'm a member of the MICIA. I feel like we represent the non-monopolistic portion of this industry. What is it that I know that that Dart Bank is a member as well? What is it that Dart, I'm sorry, is a sponsor? And what is it that that Dart likes about the MICIA? And will we see you guys up at the summer annual representing Dart Bank?
That's a great question. I love the MICIA. I think that their organization does so much for this industry. Robin Schneider is just the fearless leader of the MICIA, and she's so great at what she does. Her team is phenomenal. They're advocates for everybody. The MICA gives Dart Bank a platform to be able to introduce ourselves to this community and feel welcome, as well as be able to participate in events to help support the industry. We will actually be up at the MICA conference, and I'm excited to say that it will not be just me, but also two of our commercial lenders, Devin Lavengood and Adam Goss, who attended last year, as well as our CEO, Bill Huffnagel. He will be attending, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he will be the first CEO attending the MICIA conference. And we are so excited to have him do that, because that shows that banking and the industry is changing, and it's great.
With those changes, I was curious, how does Dart Bank, what is the plan or your philosophy to retain customers as things become looser, or possibly, hopefully federal legalization, and all of the people that were too afraid to get involved now get involved and start taking on bigger shares of the market? What do you think, Dart Bank? I know what I feel. What keeps you guys, separate from the other ones that we have spoke with, but I'd like to hear from you, like what are your core values that'll help retain customers back when more players get involved?
Sure. That's a great question. One of the biggest things I think is the fact that we've been there since the beginning. So when your banks and your credit unions didn't want to support you and didn't want to take the risk to get into it, we were there. We save people every week from getting kicked out of their banks on the traditional side as well as on the cannabis side, because they'll have you remove your entire relationship, and we're there for you. So we hope that our customers remember that in the future. Also, I think part of it has to do with me, because I'm a pretty personable girl. I like to create relationships with all of my customers so that I can become an advocate for you guys, and support you and create a friendship. Like Ryan said, we have a special, little group, Cool Cannabis crew, that we meet with, and we wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't, all talk together and all have met through the banking industry and through the MICIA. When everything legalizes, we already have a succession plan, planned out for what to do. We didn't just have the information to get into it at the time whenever it became legalized. We also have the plan moving forward, and that's important for us. We want our customers to know and feel confident that whenever, safe banking passes or legalization happens, that you're still going to be in good hands, and that you'll continue to be able to grow with us, and we can grow with you as well. We're constantly updating our program, moving it with the industry, being incredibly fair with who we work with while still remaining compliant. And I think that those deep relationships that we're forming, where we treat you as real people, as our friends, and not as something strange because you're in an illegal industry, is going to really pay off in the end. I truly believe it.
Yeah, I could back that up. That it's just not lip service for sure. That's exactly how we feel here. So it's been our experience.
That makes me feel really good, because I think I'm a pretty real person, and I think people appreciate that. So thanks for you and Krista.
Yeah, Nicole. So talking about banking again, what are some of the things that business owners can do to avoid, having complications with the feds as far as banking goes? Is there business practices, things that we should be doing to make banking smoother for our businesses?
Sure, that's a great question. I think being honest and upfront from the start is really important. I think I'm very inviting with the conversations that I have. So as long as we're honest in this industry, we can all kind of grow together and do that. Making sure that you have all the correct information updated on your operating agreements, that you're disclosing everything that you can to your bankers. That's really important. Also knowing that when we ask you for something like an invoice or to use our compliance software, that you're understanding it's not something we're trying to do to make your life difficult. It's because we have to follow strict guidelines in order to do this, because I would hate for our program to get shut down or something bad to happen because we or one of our customers weren't following the regulations and rules that we've set in place and that the state has set in place for us to do it. So while at times it may be challenging, we just ask that, you just try and comply as best as you can. Ask questions, because you never know unless you ask questions. We're very open to questions. But just making sure that everything you have is up to date, that the information you're providing is true, and that when we ask you for something, there's always a reason behind it, and it's not meant to make your lives more difficult.
Yeah, I would say that it's important that people understand that obviously cannabis banking is going to be a little bit more complicated than having a personal bank account. But I can testify that Dart does make it as easy as it possibly can be. And I guess that's all we're looking for. Time's important, and being able to get through the tough process of staying compliant. We appreciate you guys' help on that.
Yeah, I mean, I even had it just shut down this year. I will name it with Flagstar. I had it was my real estate and payroll company, and I was able to sell a property to a marijuana company, and they shut me down just for selling a property to a company that had something to do with marijuana. So like I
Squares.
moved everything over to Dart, so I don't have to worry about anything anymore on that. So it's nice. It's real nice. But hey, Nicole, I got kind of a question. I just thought of it right now, and I wanted an insider's view to see if I was like even knowing what I was talking about, and if I was, what your take is on it. So in 2019, I went to Washington D.C. with NCIA, and we were lobbying for the Safe Banking Act, and I was in the senator's office, and I was like Wyoming, and they were just like, well, why should we care? And I was like, well, right now. There's all these bankers right now all over the country that are in these states that are having to spend so much of their time looking into these marijuana businesses on the FinCEN. Don't really know what that is. I just like to say it, so I sound like I'm talking about. But I know there's 4 steps. But so like why are we spending? And meanwhile, that time could be spent on like domestic terrorists, national terrorists. Like why are we wasting any time? Isn't that a threat somewhat to national security? Was what I told them. But is that something where it really is happening? Where like that's taking away real time to be able to do stuff like that?
Well, with the Safe Banking Act, it will open up a lot more for the banks to be able to do, and also offer us guidance from our regulators to be able to make it more streamlined. We do have to focus a lot of time and effort on the compliance measures. However, I think even if the Safe Banking Act passes, this industry could still look like a money service business type like industry because it's so cash heavy. So therefore, we're still going to have to follow a lot of regulations and whatnot, but we'll have more guidance, which is going to be a really great thing, because right now they don't necessarily offer the guidance because not a lot of banks out there are doing it. So it's harder for us to be able to kind of maneuver through it. But with working with our federal regulators, with the state, with everything, it makes it a bit easier. So whenever that does pass eventually, it will be able to make our lives and your lives a bit easier on that side with more guidance.
Yeah, very cool. I got another question. That'd be interesting. We asked, Tim Adams from Maynard was on, and we always like to ask, like, the different industry people getting into it. But do you have any, obviously not name names, but any funny stories or just anything that's like happened that's funny analogies since you started doing with the cannabis that you wouldn't have seen in a regular business?
Oh, let's see. I mean, I've got tons of stories. One of the best things I think that happens is when I have these conversations. I obviously am not plant touching, but I know a lot about the industry. I'm a certified cannabis banking professional. So when I'm having these conversations with people, which I do 99% of my day, every day, I ask them a lot of questions about their business. And if I'm talking to cultivators, sometimes people tell me they don't have a grower or they don't have someone in place to do that. And I'm just like, well, what's your plan for that? And they don't have one. And I think that's one of the most important things that you have to have in order to have a cultivation, because from what I have learned is that it's an art. It's not just something anybody can do. It's something you have to practice at and know what you're doing and understand the time that it takes to be able to do that. And when I talk to people who don't necessarily know that, it's kind of like, a little bit interesting. So I always get a little kind of chuckle out of that. But luckily, I have the experience from, all of you guys, as well as other people in the industry, to know the guidance that I can kind of give them and whatnot. But I think that's probably one of the funniest things that I ever get to hear. And then also people asking me why they can't just open an account regularly. And I'm like, well, do you understand that we're federally regulated and this is federally illegal? So it's that whole breakdown of that whole aspect. So, yeah.
That's funny. What's it been like just like with your family and friends and community, like talking about cannabis? I don't know if you were open about cannabis before you started doing the baking or not, but I know I certainly was. But you know, I know never everybody was. What's been that kind of adjustment been like?
Sure. So when I told people and all my friends and family and relatives that I was getting into the cannabis business, some of them were shocked and some of them weren't shocked, just because I do crazy things a lot. I get to work in really great industries, and at first people were like, oh, okay, what does that mean? Are you going to be growing? And I was like, not unless the bank is having a grow facility. But um, it's been interesting. My husband is very supportive of it. He is a substance abuse counselor, so that's a bit interesting for our home life. But he's phenomenal. His company is phenomenal. But it's been a great opportunity for it. My dad is thrilled because then I can send him over, all the rubs that help him. He doesn't have to take the opioids. My extended family was a lot more supportive than I thought they would be. And like I said, my friends think it's really cool. And it's nice to also have my high school friends in the industry as well. So we all have that in common.
Yeah, very cool.
So Nicole, we got industry professionals watching the show today. Give them the sales pitch. Give them how they can get in contact with you, your email address, phone number, all that good stuff. So we can help you guys get some more business over there.
Sure. Well, if you want to open an account with a compliant, friendly bank, you really want to talk to Dart Bank and you want to talk to me. Very open with having conversations. Like I said, I'm very real. You can reach me via email at nperry@dartbank.com, or you can call me directly at 517-883-9260. We're very appreciative of every opportunity that we receive, and I promise we will take really good care of you.
Great. I have a feeling that we're going to get a bunch of people your way. Like I said, banking's a difficult thing. Ryan mentioned Flagstar. Over the years, I think we had about 5 different banks with the dispensary that I own and my cultivation facility. And like Tom said about payroll, people don't understand. We have a responsibility as business owners to take care of our employees. They come in and they work hard for us, and it's our responsibility to make sure that they get compensated. They can go home and feed their families. And when your bank closes on you on a Wednesday and payroll's due on Thursday, what do? You scramble and you fight. You try to find another bank that you can trick more or less into allowing you to bank, because you can't just walk in there and say, hey, I own a cannabis business, I want to open an account. But they're going to ask you, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't have, cannabis in my business name. We kind of disguise it in your business name so you can go in there when they ask you, you can say something like, oh, we do search engine optimization or whatever, something you can make up that's believable as to why you'd have a bunch of cash coming into the bank. But you guys providing the services that you guys provide, I think it's excellent. It's helped us out a ton. It's kept the families of our employees fed, and we appreciate it big time.
Yeah, Kevin, that's exactly why our company is called RL Solutions before Real Leaf Solutions. Eventually to be a DBA after, because we needed banking as a caregiver. We needed. I also was registered. I had a company registered under my caregiver name, so it was. Yeah, it's one of those things that. What do banks look for though? When somebody's coming to them, if you were say not cannabis friendly and somebody's trying to sneak one through. I mean, what's the funniest name you've heard yet? Do you? Because I know there's some ridiculous ones out there.
There's people who have like names that just
I can't name it. They get them in
No,
trouble.
maybe people that are no longer with you. Clever. What's the cleverest? No, or you can just don't have to answer that.
Well, I bet Sticky Ipsy has a hard time getting accounts.
I like that name.
Yeah. I love the name, but yeah it's probably not their it's probably their DBA. They're probably covered.
Hey Nicole, what's do you guys like? I was insurance before that. I always go to the different insurance conventions and all stuff like that. I'm sure the bankers have got it too. Is that something that you've gone to? Obviously, there's COVID slowed it down, but pre-COVID, I guess, like where you're at regular banking conventions, and do you get a lot of people coming up and asking questions, or is it just kind of what's that like?
Yeah, so I actually get emails all the time from people in other financial institutions asking me about how we got into cannabis and how they can get into it. And it's kind of like I've become almost like famous in this industry, which is pretty cool. People know who I am and they want to ask us questions about it. And while we don't want to share our trade secrets, we're always willing to have those conversations just to be, polite and nice and whatnot. But at different places that we go to, they do ask us a lot of questions about our program or want to bring it up and talk about it. And I think that's kind of cool. I go to lots of cannabis conventions as well. So it's nice to be able to do the banking and the cannabis on the side as well. And I wanted to hit on something earlier, too, from what Kevin and Tom were talking about. We don't just support the cannabis industry with licensed entities and ancillary businesses. We also support your employees as well. So if your employees get kicked out of their banks for getting payroll from cannabis, we support that. And we're also able to provide mortgages as well as consumer loans to employees of our cannabis customers as well, which is kind of hard to find in the industry. So that's just something special that we do on top of that too. So to make the whole thing full circle.
That's so incredibly important. We've struggled with that for years, and it's nice to know that finally people have access to. If people have been working for 2 years looking for a mortgage, housing's ridiculous right now. So, yeah, kudos to you guys. Thank you for blazing the trail.
Yeah, Ryan, real quick, Nicole, tell us about. I know that you guys offer up some financing and stuff like that. Something that other banks don't do. Is that something you're interested in talking about at all?
Sure. So we have been lending in the cannabis space since September of 2019. We have two really fantastic lenders that are in the space. They work in both the traditional side as well as the cannabis side. And one of them is one of the top agriculture lenders in the state as well. And we have two buckets that we work from. One is based off of projections, and the other is for operational businesses. We do ask that you be a cannabis customer of ours to be able to look at doing lending with us. Because we believe in being fair to our customers that are, working with us on the banking side as well. If our buckets are full, we unfortunately aren't able to lend in that space, but we have been able to support many customers throughout the past, 2 years that we have been lending, and it's been a really great thing. If anybody wants information on any lending, you can reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to connect you with one of our commercial lenders in the space. But it's something we're doing that not a lot of other financial institutions are doing.
Well, I got one last question here, Nicole, and just as we talk about Michigan and then talking about expanding to other states, is that something that Dart thinks about? What's Dart's kind of master plan, or like do you have conversations with other banks in other states that are doing the same thing? And that's kind of fascinating to me, like because obviously you're hitting this to become an expert at something ahead of the curve.
Sure, that's a great question. And we have considered and looked into working in other states. What's probably the easiest thing to do is looking at those states that are metric friendly, because it's very similar to the way that Michigan operates. So it has been on our radar to have conversations and doing that. But the biggest thing is we want to be able to master the art of banking everybody in Michigan, because there's lots of opportunities out there. And obviously, our hearts and homes are in Michigan. So that's very important for us. But I would say that there's definitely opportunity to look at other states moving forward to support our customers, no problem.
Yeah, very cool, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know we could talk about this all day, and we'll be talking about it more here up at Torch Lake coming up this summer. And but we're gonna wrap up the show, and wanted to give a chance for Tom and Kevin to say goodbye and thanks. So Tom, go for it.
Nicole, as always, it's lovely to see you. This COVID thing's really gotten us down, so we can't get to spend any time and hanging out. It's always enjoyable, but get to see you next month. Thank you for providing the best customer service that I've ever received at a bank, and for treating us just like a normal business. It's a beautiful thing.
Appreciate you too, Tom.
Kevin.
Yeah, I just want to echo the same thing that Tom basically just said. You guys have treated us great. That feeling of being able to walk into a bank, knowing that full disclosure that we're good with the bank, and that they're treating us like normal customers. That's great feeling. We appreciate that, and look forward to seeing you up at the summer annual next month. So hope you guys stay safe in your travels. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hey Nicole, any final thoughts? As you know, there's a lot of industry professionals and decision makers listen to the show, and anything you want to say to them and/or your coworkers on the way out here?
Well, I want to thank all of you for having me on this podcast. I really enjoyed it. I want to thank the team at Dart Bank, as well as our CEO, our board, and everybody for looking at getting into this space and seeing that niche and being able to provide a solution for people who really, really needed one. It's probably one of the best things we ever did. And as for anybody else in the industry, I just say, don't be afraid to build those relationships, to ask questions, and to educate yourself in there. It's what we all did, and it's turned into something really great. And I'm looking forward to seeing more and more business names out there that are supporting the cannabis industry.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and it was a big deal. Like we've had Maynard on and other professionals, and just for us being in this so long to normalize, and it's fun now to be welcome in your community when you used to be the not so welcome. It's definitely been a 180, and this is the type of stuff that does it. But I think you're gonna find, like, you picked the right group of them MICAA with a lot of ex-caregivers, and whenever someone's like shown us love and stepped forward for us, like, we're real loyal. And like I've just noticed some of the newer people coming in that didn't go through that, they're more kind of jumping around, and I struggled with that at first. So I think you picked a great job. Thanks for being on, and looking forward to seeing you here in July.
Thank you, guys.